Well, and we're live. Elliot, how you doing?
Good, thank you, man. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Now, I got a pretty good way of getting these things started. I love a good origin story, and your story's a pretty good one because, I mean, you've been training with your dad since you were a little fella. So can you tell us a little bit about that and just maybe tag a few moments in the timeline between now and where you are now fighting with One Championship that were really important to you?
Yeah, for sure, man. So as you said, I started as a real young lad with my old man. I was 4 years old when he first took me to the gym for the first time. I was still a little bit young to be part of the kids class, so I just trained at home for another year with him, and then I ended up joining like the proper kids class when I was 5 years old. And literally, man, I've just been obsessed with martial arts since I was a kid. It's just everything that I love to do, and always has been. I grew up watching Bruce Lee films with my old man, and and his dad before he was a martial artist as well, and before him too. So it's kind of like a generational thing, and I don't know, man. I just feel like it is who I am, and I don't really know anything else, So yeah, it's like I started training at 5 years old. I didn't fight professionally as a Muay Thai fighter until I was 19. I competed in jiu-jitsu tournaments as a kid and grappling comps and wrestling things and things like that. But until I fought like under full Thai rules in a ring with like the real deal, so to speak, was I was 19 and I had my first fight in Thailand. I fought a guy that had over 250 plus fights, and I was up against it. I got beat, but I had a good fight, and I learned a lot about myself and about fighting and about how far I can push myself when times get tough. And I think from that point is when I really fell in love with like the true essence of fighting, not just martial arts. And yeah, man, I kept fighting, and then now here I am signed to One Championship, ranked number 5 in the world, 60 pro fights ish, somewhere around there, like just shy of, I think it's like 59 or something. And yeah, man, I live the dream day in, day out, bro. It's cool.
What's your favorite thing about that start that your dad gave you in martial arts from starting you real early? Because it's obviously a habit in the Compton family then if it goes back that far. And what do you think was the best thing that you got out of that? Because I know there's heaps of parents out there now that are like, why the hell would I want my kid to do Muay Thai or martial arts and learn how to fight? But there's so much more to it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think the main thing for me, like particularly now as I'm older and I look back and I've got a daughter of my own now, I think the thing that I'm most grateful for from being in martial arts and my parents put me in early was I learned discipline and respect, man. They're the two biggest things. I learned to respect the people around me, and I learned very quickly that I'm not the toughest or the strongest or I'm not the best. And you know what I mean? I learned that there's always someone above you that's going to kind of pull you into line. And I learned to respect that. I learned to respect the authority figures in the gym. I understood the hierarchy and things like that. And I think, like on the discipline side of things, I learned to do things that maybe necessarily I didn't want to do, but I knew that I had to do to get the end result, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'd say discipline and respect are definitely the two biggest things that I have gained from being in martial arts since I was a young age.
That's awesome. And you coach martial arts too, out of the training center that you run with your dad. So you definitely give back to the sport a lot. What do you love about coaching?
I think when you truly understand something, you can teach it, right? And I find the more that I teach, the more that I learn at the same time. So for me, it's a combination of things. I love the social aspect of teaching, obviously. But I also love the feeling of someone that's come into the gym that's completely green. They've never thrown a punch before in their life, and seeing it all come together and seeing them develop the same passion for martial arts and health and fitness that I have, So there's that side of things. And I really love the fact that I could be training someone that, like you said, has never done a day of training in their life, and they'll ask a question and I think, oh, I don't know, man. I just do it. I've never actually thought about it because it's like, as we said, I've trained for so long. All the basic fundamentals I learned when I was like 4 or 5 years old that I don't remember learning them. So it almost like in my mind, it's like, well, everybody knows how to do this. So for me, it's like, it's really great to kind of like stop and strip back what I know and like go back to like the super basic fundamentals and really teach it, because then like it reinstills it in me and it gives me a deeper understanding of what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's cool. I do. There's two things that I love doing with people. One's taking from someone weak to strong, and the other one is then taking that strong guy who maybe knows how to fight and teaching him how to apply that lesson in life. Because you'll never reach the top of your game if your life is messed up at the same time as you're trying to train for fights and balance family and everything else as well. There's no room for dead shits at the top.
No, absolutely, man. And I like what you said there about how taking someone that was weak and making them strong. But I think the same thing also works in reverse, right? It's a cool thing with martial arts and training and being a coach, so to speak, that you can take someone that is strong and teach them that it's okay to be weak at sometimes too. Like there's this perception in martial arts that we always have to be stoic and we always have to be poker face and never show an ounce of pain or weakness or anything like that. But I think that as like people, like it's important to be able to be weak at times and release that energy through, whether it's through like training, physical activity, through talking or whatever it is. So I think that like as a coach, it's cool to be able to coach both sides and not always put up this brave front all the time. So I like that point that you bring up there, man. That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool because, I mean, we do talk about it all the time, and people have got to understand that fight gyms are sometimes full of like guys that are super strong that do talk about stuff all the time, because if you're not constantly attacking your weaknesses and fears, again, there isn't room at the top for somebody who just complains about every loss that they have and every bad decision that they're end of. The only thing that fixes that is actually talking about it honestly. So you have to be a little bit authentic with yourself and your struggles as well. Like your coach can't help you if she's like you're flat at training and he doesn't know that you've been fighting with your family at home, and then he can't get you going, and it's like, what's up, mate? And you're just like, nothing. Like it's not gonna help you, and it's not gonna help let your team support you either. Now you have a wall full of belts and trophies at Compton Training Center. What's the most important one to you, or which one was the most pivotal in your development?
In terms of belts, I would say when I won my Siam Pro International Championship belt, I fought Tom Matsua, who I don't know if you know who Tom Matsua is, but he was a legend, man. Well, he still is a legend. He'd fought everyone, man. He'd fought like all the greats in this country, John Wayne, Preacher, Eli, all these guys that everyone like looked up to, and Soren, and he fought Cosmo Alexandre a number of times. He fought like the top level guys. He was on the Contender Asia series, and he was the guy that everyone kind of feared. He beat everyone, man. He was King's Cup champ a number of times, and he just had this insane grapple that everyone was like, "Oh man, you can't grapple with this guy. Have you been working your grapple? You've been doing this. You've been doing that." And we asked for the fight, so Siam Pro came to me and they said, "Hey, we want you to fight. Who do you want to fight?" They actually gave me the choice between Daniel Dawson and Tom Matsua. So I said, man, I'd rather go Tom Matsua. Like Daniel Dawson had been out for a while at the time, and like much respect to Daniel, man, he's a killer too. But Tom was the guy that everyone was like wary of, So I was like, no, man, give me that guy. That's what I want, Plus, he was someone that I looked up to for so long fighting, and I really admired his style. And so anyway, man, we signed the fight and we started camp, and the thing that everyone was saying is, oh, you should go to Thailand and focus on your Thai grappling. I love grappling, and I think that I'm a good Thai grappler, but our game plan, this is what makes the fight so special to me, is our game plan was to not play the whole Thai style of grappling, right? So given like my old man's background and everything that we've done over the years with the MMA guys and the shoot boxing and wrestling and everything else, we decided to employ a more of an MMA style, wrestling style tactic in the grapple, right? So obviously the main game plan was to stay away from the clinch altogether because that's his strongest point. So, but if we got there, then the plan was to try and almost like anti-wrestle, but in a Thai rule set, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
So we worked a load of like like trip techniques that like he's real good with that foot trip and things, and he gets that body lock real tight. But he entered on the body lock the same way as most people would enter on a double leg. And we noticed that. So what he would normally do is he like backs up to the ropes, and you think that he's backing up, so you get excited, right? And you come running forward, you overcommit on a punch, and he'll slip and he'll charge forward, and you'll get that deep body lock, and then he will flip you over his knee. And he would do that 50 times in a round with some fights. Like that was his go-to thing, right? So we saw it, and we developed a game plan. And round one, obviously a bit of nerves, bit of jitters. I was fighting like the man, And I got to be honest, man, it was just after the king of Thailand had passed away. And out of respect, Tom walked out with zero music. He just walked out carrying a picture of the king of Thailand, man. And it scared the shit out of me, bro. I remember like being in this ring thinking, oh, man, I'm just going to cop it for this guy's emotions now, But I was like, cool, let's go, So anyway, round one, he did exactly his thing, backed up to the ropes and got me and flipped me. And I was like, I remember landing, and I was in our corner, and I hear the old man. He said, that's all right, man. We knew this was going to happen, I remember looking, like laughing, like, oh, yeah, like, that's right, game plan. And anyway, I swept him a couple of times back in the first round, out-grappled him, and like beat him up with the hands a bit. I was thinking, man, I got this, right? Went back to the corner, and I said to the old man, going into the second round, I was like, hey, remember I've been telling you that spin elbow? Watch this shit. Like I said to him, this is it, man. I'll tell you, this round we got him. And I went out, and I hit him with a big elbow, and I washed him back up to the ropes. And I was like, this is it. This is what he's going to do. He's going to do the thing that he always does. So I fed it to him, man. I gave him a jab, and I faked my teep so he'd go outside it and look for that trip. And I spun, and I hit him with this clean spin elbow, man. But the way that we drilled it was, rather than coming like across with the spin elbow, we drilled coming up or coming down, because he level changes. If you come flat, he's going to miss. So, man, I came up with it, and I hit him so hard that I thought I broke my elbow, man, on his chin. And I knew from the moment I landed, I was like, he ain't coming back from that. No one's coming back from that. And yeah, man, the ref waved it off, and it was like such a cool moment for me, because it was like he was the king, and I kind of beat him at his own game, and the game plan like was just executed so well. And man, my old man Steve, he's a genius, bro, at coming up with game plans. Like he doesn't always get the respect that he deserves, or the accolades, or the shout out, but that was all him, man. He game planned that to a T, and it worked perfect, man. And yeah, so in terms of belts, to answer your question, I'm going on a tangent, but that Cyan Pro belt really meant a lot to me. Yeah, and then obviously my CMT belts are pretty cool. I fought like world-class opponents for those two, and man, I don't know, they're all special in their own way, bro. That's a hard question. You sending me down a rabbit hole here, bro.
It is, but that's why we wanted you to go down some rabbit holes with some cool stories. Now, I mean, some people might not know. Those people that know, but obviously you're a jiu-jitsu brown belt under your father, and a very legit grappler, and you've been doing it for a long time, and also like helping all the lads get ready for MMA sparring as well, which is really a credit to you, because there's a lot of people that'll be like, nah, I don't want to spar those MMA guys because I'm getting ready for Thai boxing fights. But now One Championship has like Thai boxing in MMA gloves. Like it's really been a good foundation for you. And I just think if you looked at a lot of the really, really good top 2%, they've boxed, kickboxed, done Muay Thai, and to them it's just fighting, and all types of fighting are a good way to develop those skill sets. Like you, of course, taking a boxing fight, if you can't get a Thai boxing fight in between, is going to be good for your skill development. Do you think that's played a pivotal role in helping you stand out amongst the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've always considered myself a martial artist first, fighter second, right? So for me, going back to what you're saying about always training with the MMA guys, and I still do that now, man. And I mean, some of them, like you've seen Aaron Blackie, man, he'll flip me like 20 times in a round, and I get back up and come out after him every single time, So for me, like it's a humbling experience sparring with a lot of these MMA guys in a rule set that's not necessarily my strongest, but I find that there's so many areas that I can apply back to my Muay Thai game. Like you said, whether it comes back to the striking in the MMA gloves and understanding how to strike differently, because it is a different kettle of fish, man. But then also from that, like understanding like what it feels like to get dominated and keep coming back, and finding that warrior spirit in me. So I think in that regard, like where I class myself as a martial artist, rule sets don't necessarily matter to me too much. Obviously, like Thai boxing, kickboxing is like that's my go-to, but even that, man, it's such a gray area these days. Like, what is kickboxing, for example? There's kickboxing, like if you look at the Kunlun rules, right, which is essentially modified Thai with no elbows. You can catch and sweep. You can still tie up as long as you're active in the clinch, and you can throw from the clinch. But then you look at there's K1 and there's single knee, and then it's like, well, then there's kickboxing, European kickboxing that has no knees, and then there's sport kickboxing, which is like you have to throw X amount of kicks. So there's such a gray area of rule sets, and the same applies to Thai boxing based on different organizations that you fight for, right? So some sanctioning bodies won't allow downward elbows, some do, and like some, like the way that you can clinch is different. So I think if you always keep an open mind and just train martial arts for what martial arts is, and then when you have a specific fight come up, then you can just tweak it to adjust to each rule set. I think that's how you will always, like you said, stand out from the crowd and always be one step ahead, rather than, oh, well, I only train for this rule set forever. And then all of a sudden someone says, hey, you want to do this? And you go, oh, I don't know how to do that. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, and it helps you not get caught by the dogma of particular styles as well, because that's a problem that you hear people say all the time. Oh, that's not this. Oh, that, like, I mean, because it was funny. Like I did as much as I could before my body started falling apart. And it was funny to hear people like, oh, nah, he won't be able to box, won't be able to kickbox. And then going over to Japan to fight Kudo as well was an interesting experience as well, and people are like, oh, that isn't real, the face mask protector. But I'll tell you now, it doesn't protect you from concussions at all.
No way, man.
There's people getting knocked out at the World Championships left, right, and center. If anything, it makes people a little bit too confident to fight in the pocket.
Absolutely,
but definitely, I'll try anything once or twice. Give it a red hot bash. Now, you do have just recently had a daughter. How old is she now?
She's 6 months tomorrow, bro. Time is flying, man. It's scary, bro.
Yeah, it is. And how has been the addition of that person to your family, and how has it changed your focus and your training?
Man, it's been the best addition ever, bro. I mean, everyone says it like, oh, it's the best thing you'll ever do. And you're always like, yeah, I get it. Like when I have a kid, I'll love it. But until it actually happens to you, man, like nothing like that. Like I'm normally pretty good at articulating my feelings, man. But when it comes to her, like I can't even put it into words, man. So it's been a blessing, bro. It's probably the only thing that I can think. Even that doesn't do it justice. So I think she's added a whole new dimension to our lives, and even to, like, as weird as it sounds, to like my fighting career. It's like I'm hungrier now than I've ever been. And that's saying something, because I've always been a hungry fighter. I've always been like hungry to challenge myself. And whereas now it's like it's a whole new level. It's like I'm at a point now where it's like I'm thinking about a legacy now, which is not something I ever really thought of myself as thinking as. I just kind of like always took it as one fight at a time, and which obviously I still do. But there's definitely a bigger picture now, and it's like thinking like, obviously I want to put food on the table and provide a future for not just her but the whole family. And also, like, when she's older, to be able to look back and be like, oh, so this is what my dad did. It's like, and for me, that's more than just fighting in a ring. That's, like inspiring and empowering other people through martial arts, and there's offering the same opportunities to other people that martial arts offered to me when I was having a tough time and things like that. So, man, I've got a few things that I'm working on at the moment, and I think, like, it's still within fighting, but kind of outside of fighting too. And I think it's just made me hungrier than ever to get back in there. Like I signed the biggest fight of my career before COVID-19 hit us, man. And it got moved, and I signed it again. And I was just so excited I feel like I've got this extra level of heart now. I don't know what it is. I can't put it into words, but I always feel like I've always had something that when I fought that, I mean, you ask anyone that I train with, the things that I do in the gym is different to what I do on fight night. But I feel like I've got this extra level of inspiration now that is going to like unlock this whole new potential of what I know that I've got trapped inside me. And I'm just excited to get out there and show it, man. Like the way that I train now is different. Man, I'm a workhorse, bro. I've always trained hard. I'm like one of the hardest workers in the game. I have no qualms in saying that, man. but I just feel like now it's at another level altogether, man. Like it's almost like I'm woke. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, man. It's like everyone says that you grow up like overnight when you have a kid, and I definitely agree with that. But I think it's just really opened my mind a lot more than it already was, and I'm excited to kind of showcase the new man that I am. Yeah, man. I just pumped.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think obviously it's got a lot to do with obviously the really great role modeling from your dad too. So I'm a big fan of your dad, Steve, and I always enjoy spending time with him when we have crossed our paths and sat in Damien's corner together. It's always been good time. But I think one of the real important things is to remember, because I had kids the whole time I was fighting too. I actually started martial arts to change my life when my partner got pregnant, and it changed everything for me, I just think they're either your excuse not to or your excuse to, and I think you're in a dangerous place if you're using them as an excuse to not better yourself.
What example is that setting for you?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I really think people need to work on flipping the script on that type of stuff, and we should all be setting the best example of we can by going out and making sure that we, you guys do the best and be the best person you can for your kids. So I'm super glad that you had that result by having kids as well, and it hasn't slowed you down. We've all been watching and cheering from the sideline, so I think that's awesome. And you have a creative family too, right? Your partner, she's an amazing musician, I hear.
Yeah, she is, man. It's the some of the setup behind us. Yeah, man. She's very creative. She's very talented, man. And I think that's also like a lot of my work ethic comes from her as well. Like people talk about fighters and that they're the hardest working people on the planet and this and that. And yeah, man, it's true. But man, until you've seen like a solo musician that's hustling to get to the top, you don't understand the meaning of hard work, man. And, like my wife, Beth, man, she's sacrificed and hustled so much over the years, but not only just for herself, even for me too, man. Like I was only telling somebody the other day how much she has sacrificed for me in my career, whilst also sacrificing for her own career too, man. So it's, yeah, man, it's pretty special, bro.
I do think it's good to surround yourself with people that are right into like lifestyle design. So for me as a coach, like one of the most important things that we want to give people when they come to our center is to understand that like you're designing a life here when you become part of the team, and you're in charge of that, whether you want to be a recreational martial artist or whatever, you choose your level of commitment to that, but it must become a lifestyle. If you want to get all the benefits from it, you have to also make the sacrifices for it as well. And I think it's the same for any type of artist or any type of physical endeavor. You'll always get out what you put in.
Absolutely, man. It's funny. Like I was only having this conversation with somebody the other day, and it's like I look back to like my whole career, whatever, and it's like right now I'm sitting at number 5 in the world in the One Championship rankings, and it's like this didn't just happen by chance, man. It's not like I got lucky, or it's not like I just managed to do the right things to get to where I am. And it's like it all comes back to the amount that I've sacrificed, the things that I've missed, and things like that. But it's like it's not just me. People say that fighting is a solo sport, but it's a team sport, man. And it's not just the team in the gym; it's the support network around that. So like for me in my career, everyone looks at me and my old man, and they're like, "Oh, look at what those guys are doing." But I don't see it like that, man. For me, I see it as like, look at what my whole family's doing. Like the amount that my wife has sacrificed for my career is massive, man, and the amount that I've sacrificed for my career is massive. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm not saying like, oh, this sport owes me or anything, because I feel like I owe my life to martial arts. I owe my life to this sport. Everything that I've got, everything that I do, and everything that I am is as a result of martial arts and the sport. It's like it's given me so many blessings in my life. Like I travel and I train with the top guys, and like I see so much of the world. I travel with my old man, but none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for, the sacrifices that, like I said, my wife's making. But before that, the sacrifice that my mum made with my old man, like people don't realize that you're out of the house every single night, like training. And, there's a lot that goes into it. And my mum stood by him the whole time through all of it, and it's like we travel overseas for him to train and for me to train. And, you know, like there was never like, oh, but what about us? It was always like, yeah, of course, let's go. Yep. You know? And I think as a result of that, like you know, like that's another thing that's generational. So in terms of like now I hear these guys that, you know, that only want to train at set times of the day. And it's like, I'm only going to do this. And, but I don't want to go and travel with those. I don't want to travel to go and train with those guys. It's too far. You know, I work a job as well. And, you know, I need this. And I get it, man. Like you got to have balance and you got to have your family time. But at the end of the day, if you want to be the best, man, you have to sacrifice things and you have to go out of your way. Like even now, man, like up until recently, every Saturday morning, I drive for an hour and a half to go and spar with John Wayne until he retired. You know, like that, and that a lot of people aren't willing to do that because that's their Saturday morning. It's the time at home with their family. And before that, my wife used to get up and come and like I'd go to another gym to spar, and she would sit in the car. She'd get up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning after working a full week of work, probably playing a show the night before, and would sit in the car while I trained. You know, because I didn't drive at the time, and it was like, all these sacrifices is what led to where we are now, man. And then it's easy for people to sit back and go, oh yeah, but you know, like you got there, it's easy for you. Like, nah, man, you don't understand. Like it's a lifelong journey. And it's like, if you're not willing to sacrifice little things and you don't want to like travel to go and train with the best guys, or you'll only train at a certain time of day, and oh, you know what, I didn't really eat properly today, I don't really feel like training, or whatever it is, man, you know, like Married at First Sight Sunday night, I'm not going to train, I'll go home and watch it with the family, then this might not be the sport for you if you're planning on making it to that elite level. You want to fight in the UFC, you want to fight for the One Championship Super Series, you want to fight for One Championship Belt, whatever your goal is, it's about sacrifice, and it's about willing to go without something to get the thing that you want at the end, you know, like, I mean, you've read all these quotes on Instagram. Sometimes you have to let go of who you are today to become who you want to be, you know. And I definitely think that's something that seems to be lost in the sport these days. People watch Countdown to the UFC or whatever it is, and they think that that's how the real life, man. Nah, that shit's Hollywood, bro. You know what I mean? That ain't real. That's like, it's like the real shit is like you get it, man. It's like working a full-time job and then going to training afterwards. I mean, I'm lucky that I work in the gym, but it's still, man, like I still work a lot of hours each week and squeeze in my training. And there's days that I'm tired and I get up and I drive for an hour and a half to go and spar with people or coach or whatever it is. That's sacrifice, man. And that's what people that make it to the top, that's what they do. You think like John Jones, Israel Adesanya, all these like legendary guys just kind of only trained when it suited them or only went to do the things that they, nah, man. You know what I mean? What, they didn't miss out on weddings and birthdays and hanging out with their mates on a weekend or going out drinking in the club, or you know what I mean? Like, nah, man. Like, it's like, yeah, you make a decision, man. And in this sport, it's very hard to have both.
And then look, and martial arts has had a really good explosion, not only in Australia but around the world now. And there actually is, you know, like there's pockets of veterans who have had a chop in the sport that are willing to help the young guys get there. So while I think that exists, I think one of the things that makes me comfortable about the whole thing is that like the top 2% make a heap of money, but if we make everybody have the same beliefs from the first fight to the last, it's like your brain is just as important for the world championship fight as it is for your first fight, and you make that commitment, then we can help a whole heap of people on the way to that 2%. Because I really believe there's a way to train recreational people and professional fighters in the same manner if we have learned all the lessons beforehand. So I believe strongly in that, so you can help people on their journey on the way. Because someone might only want to have 6 fights, but he should train as hard as he can for those 6 fights, like you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. And they should make the same sacrifices, you know? But the difference is for someone that only wants to have 5 or 6 fights, that's a couple of years to sacrifice, you know? But the people that want to make it to that, like you said, that 2%, you know the reason why those guys make it to the 2%? Because they are relentless. They are relentless. And it's always like nothing's ever enough for them, you know? And it's always like, man, like, for example, like I trained the other day, we were doing some roller sprints and one of the guys beat me, and it's still like at me right now. And that's in a good way. Like, man, like it was a young guy in the gym, Jada, man. And he's super fit and strong, and it's like that's nothing about him. Like that's great, man. Like he beat me, but for me, like that competitiveness is like, no, man, I'm not going to let him get away with that. Next time I'm going to get him, and that's the difference between someone that makes it to that elite level or not. Whereas people that are like, like I'll just have a few fights, and if someone beats them in the gym one day on a sprint or something, it's like, oh well, whatever. So good on you. You know what I mean? And then that becomes the norm for them. Whereas like for me, and I'm not saying that I'm in that elite 2%, but that's where I'm headed, And the reason why I know I'm headed there is because I have that relentless work ethic and that drive to get there. And that work ethic and drive is coupled with sacrifice. I'm not out drinking every weekend. I'm not out doing all the other shit that you see all these other kids doing, man. Like I'm every minute of every day, I'm focused on my career, and I'm eating good food. I'm eating healthy. I'm following the right lifestyle choices to get me to where I want to be, And I think that's so important. And I don't know, man, like I might be speaking out of school here, but I feel like it's slowly getting lost in the world of combat sports. It's like there's like this almost like a sense of entitlement almost now, where it's like I train, so I should get all these accolades, and I should get all these like extras that everybody else gets. But it's like, man, like you got to work for that, man. And it's like, yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And you know what? I mean, it kind of the prize fighting game has always been people talking themselves into the big show, but only a certain percentage can stay there, and you've managed to stay there for a very long time. So well done for doing that. There's definitely a lot of people in Brisbane and around the country that are looking forward to your next fight. I'm super pumped to see it and find out where it is and when it's happening, and hopefully they can open up some flights soon. Obviously, there's going to be restrictions, maybe 14 days on the way in, 14 days on the way out. So hopefully they pay you a whole heap of extra money for it when it does get it back up and running.
Yeah, fingers crossed, bro. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I think we're pretty close though, man. I think soon enough. I mean, I know that obviously the UFC are doing shows, and I heard that there's a bunch of shows out of Abu Dhabi that are doing shows as well now. So I think the problem for me personally at the moment is Singapore is still in lockdown. So with One Championship, until that lockdown is released, there's not a lot that can happen. But we'll see what happens. I'm ready to go now, man. So if they tell me that there's a fight on Friday, I'm taking it, man. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the chat today, Elliot. I really appreciate it. I'm sure someone will get something out of that today, and we'll have another chat someday again soon.
Yeah, thanks heaps for having me on. Sorry I've been dodging all your messages.